The Vancouver Canucks are open for business in the trade market, but we're going to have to wait and see who's really available.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Seth Toupal. Welcome to Locked On NHL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network. Locked On is your daily NHL podcast covering all things National Hockey League. We are your team every day, and we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On NHL is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. On today's episode of Locked On NHL, we were going to take a look at the news that the Vancouver Canucks are open for business and try to figure out where the best values occur on their roster to try to go get in a trade and whether the big fish may eventually join the pond. We'll also talk about Barry Trotz laying down the line on his team. We need more. Will this work or will this backfire? And we'll talk about Mikko Rantanen, who is becoming a regular at the Department of Player Safety. We'll talk about the latest incident that he had, and again, probably rant against the Department of Player Safety. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, joined on the Tuesday edition of Locked On NHL by JD Young of Locked On Sharks. And JD, another team off the list, St. Louis Blues, widely expected to start to sell off for parts. The Vancouver Canucks have now joined the fray as they have made it known in the interested circles that they're open for business and veterans can be had for the right price. But I guess I want to start by asking, that's going to include some retention, right?
Maybe. Yeah, this is a weird situation, right? Because the Canucks have kind of boxed themselves in a corner with some of the contracts that they've handed out that some have turned sour and some are yet to even start. And it's just like for a team that wants to move some veterans, right? You look at players who you might consider veterans that would potentially get you back a return. Elias Pettersson, who's been, had a solid start to this season. I think, is 20 points in 23 games, but is making $11.6 million until 2032 and has a full no move clause. So he has full rights of where he's going to go. You have Brock Boeser, who was supposed to be one of the bells of the ball this offseason, decided at the last minute, I didn't want to move my stuff. I'm just going to stay here. You have Connor Garland, who just re-signed this offseason, and a new contract hasn't even kicked in, who's got a $6 million signed through 2032. Jake DeBrusk, who's signed through 2031 with a no-move clause. And then on the defensive front, the one name is probably not available, and that's the captain, Quinn Hughes, who, according to Elliot Friedman, who put out this report, is not available right now. So, right, everybody wants to sell stuff at your garage sale, but if you got junk to sell at your garage sale, what are you actually going to sell here?
Yeah, and this is tricky, as you laid out, because I don't think for a lot of these, I don't think the term, as far as AAV goes, I don't think that's the big sticking point. It's the amount of time. I mean, if you're looking to beef up on defense and you're looking at a guy like Philip Hronek, who may or may not be available, 7.25, if they eat part of that, you can make that work. But through 2032, are you really wanting to incorporate a player like that into your decor, like a team, for instance, let's just say the Minnesota Wild, and maybe looking for like a back end defenseman to just give them some injury depth. They're not going to be looking at Philip Roenick. Like that contract is prohibitive from them being able to do that. So, it is, I think, going to take a lot of different players just out of the mix entirely. So it kind of flips back to like, what can the Canucks possibly hope to get back in return for some of these deals?
Yeah, like looking at, like how tough it is going to be to move. By my quick count, the Canucks have nine players who either have a no move clause already in hand, or will be starting a no move clause next year with lengthy contracts. That is a lot. Just as a reminder, you could have 23 players on your team. 9 of them have no move clauses. So Evander Kane is, I guess, the prize to be had here, and nothing screams, desperation, I guess, than trading for Evander Kane, who brings his fair share of baggage on and off the ice. I mean, again, like the Canucks can be, we want to do this, we want to trade, we want to get younger, we want to get assets, but like, what are they supposed, like, what's the GM Patrik Allvin supposed to do here? Because you're stuck between a rock and a hard place with a lot of these contracts, unless guys come up and say like, yeah, I'm willing to move, right? And even then, like you said, you're going to have to probably retain and eat contracts to get anything worth of value, because it feels like if not, you're probably going to have to almost attach assets to get out of some of these contracts.
Yeah. It's and on the goalie side, you've got Thatcher Demko, you've got Kevin Lankinen. Lankinen is signed through 2030 at 4.5. Now I know he's kind of a a little more than a backup. Like, just calling him a backup goalie is probably
type
not fair.
Yeah, like solid 1B.
But $4.5 million for the next 4 seasons, that would have to be eaten. And then Thatcher Demko is just, I'm going to say radioactive, because he's hurt, he doesn't play. He plays, he can give you like 30, 35 games a season.
Yep.
It's not looking great. It's not looking great in Vandyland. They're going to have to, and if you're Quinn Hughes, what are you thinking at seeing this?
How quickly will Jack let me crash on his couch for the first month or so while I get my my housing situation set up? That's probably the big question. Or maybe Luke, do you go to the older brother, or do you go to the younger brother to try to find a place to live, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like you probably ask the older brother, but at this point, you basically just ask the city of New Jersey, hey, is there a spot for me to crash? And they'll say, yeah, we got you.
Yeah, 100%. That's how it feels. It almost feels like it's not if, but when Quinn Hughes is going to be heading off to New Jersey at some point, or somewhere else. I know like New Jersey is going to be the favorite because he wants to play with his brothers there. And you look at like the actual numbers, and that might be really difficult for the Devils to pull off. I mean, crazier things have happened, but like it's and this Canucks team, like it always feels like they take like one step forward and then 2 steps back, right? And it's like this team is always chasing, some like, hey, we played really well, in 2021 or whatever when they made the second round. They almost made it to the conference finals, but like, and it feels like they've been chasing that moment. And you hear from Canucks fans like who want a proper rebuild, and like a team that just goes through a proper rebuild and goes through it lumps. And especially as you see teams like Anaheim, who's exit their rebuild. You see the way that teams like Chicago and San Jose are starting to kind of exit their rebuild, and you hear from these fan bases. Like I was talking to a guy who covers the Canucks last week, and it's just the like almost envy of like elite, like they have a plan, and you're not just losing games without any sort of, you know, like for the Canucks right now, you're losing a bunch of games, and what's the outcome here? Like, what's the long play? Is you're just stuck with a bunch of contracts, and for a team that is just going to be trying to make the playoffs, even if they miss the playoffs this year, you know they're just going to try to reload and go for the playoffs again next year with a roster that is clearly not built to succeed.
Yeah, it's getting dicey in Vancouver, to say the least. So we will, of course, monitor if you want more on the Vancouver Canucks as they make their decisions as to who's going to be available.
Poor David Kampf
make sure
just
to follow
dies and is like, oh, get him out of here. Get him out.
Unbelievable. I guess big stock rising for Kiefer Sherwood, Lucas Reichel, and David Camp for being basically the only tradable ones.
They are literally the yeah, I would totally take a crack at Atu Rati too. I think he's really good. And so, but yeah, and Linus Carlson's good too. But yeah, like it's a mess, man. It's a mess.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, which is exactly the word that I would use to describe what Barry Trotz just did to his Nashville Predators franchise. Gloves are off. We'll tell you what Trotz's message was to his team and how much of the blame he deserves. That's on the way.
All of it.
As we continue today's edition of Locked on NHL right after this. Today's episode of Locked on NHL is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. My favorite angle to go for in hockey is the anytime goal scorer. And with how hot the Minnesota Wild have been, they are taking on the Chicago Blackhawks on Wednesday. Almost called them the Colorado Blackhawks. That's unfortunate. They're taking on Chicago on Wednesday. Kirill Kaprizov historically owns the Blackhawks. So Kirill Kaprizov, anytime goal. And if that's your $5 bet, you could cash in huge because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to today's edition of Locked on NHL. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on NHL your first listen each and every day. And we thank you for making Locked on the #1 sports podcast network. Let's talk Barry Trotz because old Trotzy, boy, Nashville is – so this is impeccable timing because I just saw a story the other day in which a Predators player was saying, yeah, the vibe is way better. And in fact, I think this was yesterday. The vibe is way better. The results are exactly the same. This is a Nashville team that over the last few years has found a way to just own the bottom of the standings as far as their record goes, as far as goals scored. They're dead last in 5-on-5 and total goals on the season by a margin. It's not working. There's been no part of this process that has worked. And Barry Trotz has, I think, pushed his chips all the way into the middle of the table by saying, I need more bleeping from them. I need more. That was the quote.
Not great, man. It's like what the old like Bill Parcells quote, right? Like where if you're like you have to like shop for the groceries, right? As the GM, and then like the head coach cooks the ingredients. You're asking more for the ingredients that you shopped for. Like you're the one who put this roster together. And like ESPN or not ESPN, NHL has an article. Like I think there's actually an article in the Tennessean, and NHL wrote an article about this as well. But like, or he's like, I don't want to fire Andrew Brunette, which is fine. I don't know if Brunette's like some, like John Cooper 2.0 or something like that. Like, I don't think he's like some, upper tier head coach or anything like that. But last time I checked, the general manager of the organization is usually the one who's in charge of putting together said roster, and the roster that you put together, of course, I mean, right here on this very podcast, 2 summers ago, we were like, man, this is great. This team is going to be, all in, like they're potentially win a Stanley Cup. Definitely hasn't happened, and this looks like a colossal failure from Trotz. And you do wonder, like, how long is he going to last? And even if he, and because right, the first thing you do is self-preservation. Somebody needs to get blamed for this poor team that is not living up to expectations. What do you think Barry Trotz is going to do? You think he's going to fall on the sword, or do you think he's going to fire the head coach first? And I think at some point the head coach is going to get fired. They're going to try to bring somebody in. Maybe they get a dead cat bounce type of performance where Nashville plays inspired for a couple weeks and crawls out of the last place into maybe the bottom 5 of the league. But this is a roster that needs to just be torn down. And this team has drafted with some high picks here, but like 2 drafts does not complete a rebuild here. And I wonder if, with some of the players that they have, yes, they have some ugly contracts, but it's not the Canucks type of situation. I wonder if they they just realize this experiment didn't work and it's time to just push the reset button on this.
Well, it definitely didn't lead to better results today. Did you see the score from Monday's game?
I missed the score from Monday's game. How bad was it?
They lost 8-3 to the Panthers, and they gave up a goal in the first 11 seconds of the game.
Nice. This is 2023 San Jose Sharks-esque right here, baby. 2023-2024 San Jose Sharks right there. Like that is, yeah. I've seen, I think I'm an expert in watching bad hockey teams. That's a bad hockey team.
Watched a lot of on Twitter. Hockey. I've just found myself kind of scrolling through to see reaction, and there's a lengthy quote. It's like 3 different pages long. I'm not going to read the quote, but I'm going to read the quote over it. It took about 2 years for Barry Trotz to go from take some high-end swings on some guys, go get me some guys that get people out of their seats, to I want some big trees out there. We need to draft some more size.
They always fool you. Always goes back to size. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, Brady Martin's a big boy, but like, yeah, you need. He's 6 foot, 187 pounds, but like, yeah, like I've never been like a size above everything, and yes, size does have its. I'm not going to say here like size is very important in hockey, etc. But like, GMs who just draft in size, like it doesn't work. Like the way the NHL is now, right? It's so fast, it's so highly skilled. You need highly skilled players who can, just be those game breakers, right? And even if you look at like the elite of the elite of the elite in the NHL, right? Sidney Crosby is not the biggest guy in the world. Nathan McKinnon, not the biggest guy in the world. Macklin Celebrini, who I think we can easily say is on his way to being one of those guys. He's 6 foot, like 198 pounds, like not the biggest guy in the world. Connor Bedard, not the biggest guy in the world. Like, you need special players, and if they got size on them, great. But I think the Canucks, they just need more special players on this roster, and they just do not have them.
Not to go box score farming, but Steven Stamkos 12 minutes.
Hey, just get him out of there. That thing failed. I think that right there is the one where it just neither party is walking away from that, and it's just better to just cut bait, realize it didn't work, cut bait, and you wonder if Stamkos goes to a contender. Like, you could totally see Stamkos going to a contender. We're both going to say the Vegas Golden Knights, and then
I was going to say Tampa.
Going back to Tampa, you could totally see that, and just kind of like that homecoming, comes back in and scores like 20 goals in 25 games or something like that, and is rejuvenated. But yeah, I could see that. Actually, it'll be the most annoying if he goes to the Panthers. They use that LTIR space and he goes to the Panthers, and it's just like you got Marchand and Stamkos out there on one line. Just that'd be obnoxious. But yeah. I think you got to move Stamkos. I think you got to try to move off of even Marchand. So like both those guys there, you have some young forwards who need more ice time here, and it's a long year. At least this draft is going to be they're going to walk away with a really nice player at the top end of this draft, though.
They're going to need a few more beyond that, so that's just that'll be an ongoing process for whoever is GMing the team at the time that they that they have the picks. We are going to finish today's show by talking to the Bull himself, talking about the Bull himself, Mikko Rantanen, who has he's turned into a regular fixture at the Department of Player Safety. But are they really doing enough about it? We'll talk about that as we finish today's episode of Locked on NHL right after this.
Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache sometimes between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your favorite team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. We, and in the Young household, have used Game Time. We used it. We're going as tradition. We go to a Sharks game right around the holidays. The whole family, grandparents, everybody, we go to a Sharks game. Great time. Game Time made it super easy. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go.
Final segment of today's edition of Locked on NHL. And once again, we thank you for making Locked on NHL your first listen each and every day. We also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We got to talk about Mikko Rantanen because he has been sent to the principal's office a couple of times here recently.
Bad boy Mikko Rantanen. What a rebrand.
I can pretty much, he's in his Hulk Hogan NWO era. I can pretty much guarantee that if Patrick Waugh would have gotten his hands on him, they would have exchanged some unpleasantries because, boy, that was a shouting match from the bench to the tunnel. But that's just where it started. Rantanen has basically been just setting up a cot in the Department of Player Safety since. There have been several other incidents. He was fined $2,000 on Friday as part of a supplementary measure for a second embellishment offense. He had a previous one. He was warned for a diving incident on October 16th against Vancouver. Mm-hmm. Second incident on the 11th against the Ottawa Senators triggered the fine. $2,000. I mean, I know they're getting rid of the penny. Like, they're getting rid of the penny in U.S. currency. Like, Is this the equivalent of that for multi-million-dollar athletes that get paid a ton of money? Rantanen is making, I think, 12.5 this year.
Yeah. And then of course, right, you don't forget the reason why he was also suspended, getting his second ejection from a game as he boarded Matt Coronado. It does feel like somebody needs to sit down Rantanen and be like, dude, you can't keep doing this. Yes, again, like $2,000 for him is nothing. Like that's going out change or whatever. But like, I know the 1 game suspension, right? Like that's automatic there. And of course, the Department of Player Safety is not going to do anything that they don't have to do or any extra work at all because, right, they're really busy, Seth. I don't know what they're doing, but they're really busy with, reviewing. I don't know, but like with how close the incidents were, right? And now Romanov, who's going to be out for 5 to 6 months with shoulder surgery. I think you have to take that into account, right? With what Romanov, that's not a, hey, we'll see you in a couple of weeks type of, 5 to 6, like he's probably done for the year most likely. And then just turning around and doing it like a week, like less than a week later against Coronado. You would, if the Department of Player Safety had like any teeth to it or any urgency to have any teeth, they would have been like, okay, with how close these incidents are, we got to do something here in 5 games or something like that, and just kind of lay the law down for Rantanen. That way, again, he's not putting himself in these positions. And right, I know he's a big, fast athlete, and like that's like his style of game there, but you can't have these type of things happening. And again, with how fast and how skilled players are, you can't have Rantanen with just no disregard to anybody else going out there and doing what he's doing right now.
And the other part of this, and you and I have talked about this extensively on this Tuesday edition of the show, you gotta go above and beyond to set an example. Like, yeah, it's probably going to end up being an egregious suspension, egregious penalty considering, but the only way that players are going to learn what they can't do is by somebody being made an example. And so does that mean 15 games? I don't know, but Department of Player Safety has to start to actually seem like they care about enforcing the safety.
Again, they're super busy, Seth.
Yeah, Star Wars was on TNT the other day.
Right.
I know. I get it. Like I understand when those movies are on, you just got to stop what you're doing. But
you got to do 100%. They do the dad move where even though there's a couch 5 minutes away, they stand cross-armed like 5 feet in front of the TV. I've also caught myself doing that as a dad, and I have to remind myself like there's a couch right behind me. Yeah, they 100%. They actually take the seats out of the Department of Player Safety so that way. Yes.
Oh my gosh, it truly baffles the mind that.
That's why Cam Fowler, as soon as he retires, head of the Department of Player Safety. There you go.
Somebody's got to do it, because until like this stuff is going to keep happening because there's no repercussion.
$2,000 for
$5,000.
Yeah, that's nothing for them. And yes, I know that's part of the like CBA bargain stuff, but like if you're like an ELC guy, right, or like one of the like vet min type of guys, like yes, $2,000 and stuff like that's that's a good nice chunk out of your paycheck. But if you're a guy like Mikko Rantanen, who's one of the like top 1% guys in the NHL, especially when it comes to contract stuff, like that's nothing. That's nothing for him, and that's not going to dissuade him from making dumb decisions out there. And yeah, the Mikko Rantanen villain era is something to behold.
Yeah, and furthermore, like you might be a player lower on the roster for your team that may be on, say, a 1-year deal or kind of a prove-it deal. You get hurt, the team is going to say, all right, we're going to fill that spot some other way. And then you're kicked to the curb while Mikko Rantanen is diving all over the ice.
Yeah. You know,
there should be some evening of the scales. The justice system routinely says balance the scales. So let's suspend Mikko Rantanen for 5 to 6 months.
or at least through the next Wild game, right?
Yeah, please. I'm begging you.
Please.
But like 10, 15, it's got to be something. It's got to be something that is going to get players to turn. You know what? When Ryan Hartman had the suspension for, as he put it, falling on Tim Stützle in the Ottawa Senators game, and he got suspended for 10 games, that was okay. Now we're serious. Yeah, and it did end up getting appealed down to 8, but it's still something like that where you turn your head and you're like, okay, they're not messing around now. Like you gotta go out of your way to be the disciplinarian parent if you don't parent ever. Then you got to go nuts, and the kids are like, oh, yikes.
Mom and dad aren't messing around
anymore.
This
is what you got to do. Yeah, it's just what you got to do. We're not playing around anymore. 5 to 6 month suspension. Announce it. Say it.
Turn
do
this
it.
car around. Turn this car around.
Say it now. Now. No, I'm
Mikko.
If
you don't get your act together, Mikko, we're turning this car around and you're going back to Carolina. Taxes and all.
We are not going to Legoland. I'll tell you that right now. Boy, think of how many Legos you can buy with $2,000.
Oh my gosh, like 3 sets. This was an old school Western Conference Tuesday episode, Seth. Just all Western Conference.
Yeah, this is a return to the magic. This is a return to the magic. We're like the horse that's been racing its entire life. It can't do all the races, but every now and again you get the kindling of the magic. Yeah. And we got our Cam Fowler reference in this week, which I forgot to last week, I think. So all in all, best of luck, Barry Trotz. It looks like the team definitely got the message that you yelled at them. That's our show for today. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.